doing stuff because it's gonna make me lose my train of thought. Okay, so I'm gonna open Piskel. I'm gonna use the one that's on my computer. On a Mac, the way I usually do this is I just use the spotlight. So I click on this little guy, or I hit Command Space, and then I type in Piskel, if I can spell it correctly. And it should look like this. If it's not working on your computer, we will troubleshoot it once I go over these basic steps. I usually, if I'm working on this like, on my own at home or whatever, I'll usually use like a drawing tablet or something like that. Obviously, you can use the mouse. That's fine. But the drawing tablet makes it a little bit easier. So yeah, Piskel is just a very basic art editor. You can see there are not very many tools. There's not a lot of menu options. It really just does one thing that's very basic. But one of the reasons I like it is because it has a lot of different export options, because it's designed to work with video games to make sprites and maps and art for video games. So I'm just going to make a little avatar image. I'm going to save first. I always like to save things first, so I'm going to call this avatar, and then I'm going to click Save As. And then I'm going to make a folder where I'm going to put all my classwork. I actually already made a folder. This is from last year. I'll delete that later, but here's my MMP 270 folder. I have it on my desktop. You can put it in your documents or wherever you want. And I'm just going to make a folder for art. So anything that I make that's art related, I'll put in here. I like to keep things very organized. It's really helpful when you're making a game, especially as the game starts to grow in size, to have all of your folders set up right and have labels and stuff so you don't miss files or you save something in the wrong place or you're editing two different files or all these different things. Okay, so when you save a Piskel file, it's going to be called .piskel. This is like your PSD or an edit file, so I can open it again in Piskel and edit it later. But it's not an image. It's not an image file that can be rendered on the computer. We're going to have to export that. We're going to do that in a little bit. So I'm going to save my avatar file. If I want to see that that exists, I can go to the Finder, and I can go to my desktop, and I can see right here in my MMP 270 art, there's my avatar.piskel. It doesn't have like an icon because the Mac doesn't know this program, so it just looks like a little blank sheet of paper. But it's saved there. So yeah, if you're using the browser version, you're gonna want to save that when you're done. But when you're using it, it'll save it in local storage. So if you refresh the page, that's gonna be fine. One thing that you're gonna want to look at first is the settings. You can set the grid size. So if you want to have a grid, you can set that up. You don't see the grid on mine right now because I have a very small image, but you can set some stuff here. Then you can resize the canvas. So the default size is 32 pixels by 32 pixels. This is really, really small. It's good for making like a game with lots of like little sprites and stuff like that, or lots of little scenery. But you can change the size of this. If you want to keep it square, you can click Maintain Aspect Ratio. If you have stuff in the canvas already and you click Resize Canvas Content, it'll resize everything with it. I'm going to make mine a little bit bigger, but not too big. I'm going to make it 64 by 64. So I want to still be like drawing pixels, but it'll be a little bit bigger. And so then when I click Resize, it doesn't really look like anything changed, but you might notice that the size of my like little drawing thing is a little bit different. Okay, we're gonna go over these guys later. So I have layers and stuff like that, but I'm gonna ignore most of this. I'm just gonna look at these tools. So you have some basic tools. Usually what I like to do when I'm drawing stuff is I like to make like a little outline and then draw over it. So that's pretty easy to do here. So let's say I was making an avatar and I just wanted like a basic outline to draw on top of. I could make a circle and then I could use the hand to put it in the middle, or I can align to center using this little align button. And then I can make a new frame and see how there's this ghosting. So it has the default onion skin on. So I can turn that off if I want to. But now I can draw on top of this and I can, do a little freehand drawing or whatever, but I have a nice little circle to use as a guide. So I'm going to make my avatar based on that. You can see that the application is used for animation. So I have this little animation preview window here. If I go to like 1x, this is the actual size. If I go to full, it zooms in a little bit. And then I can actually open this in another window if I want to. But I'm not animating right now, so I'm just gonna drag this down to 0 FPS. So it'll just preview what's actually here. And I recommend putting this in 1x because sometimes you'll forget that your image is actually really, really small. This is how big the image is, but this is what we're editing. So it's good to keep the 1x size so that you know what you're looking at. Okay. So another nice thing about Piskel is you have two colors. And so if I draw like this and then I use the right click on the mouse, it'll do whatever the other color is. And right now it's transparent, so it's actually like a little eraser. So if I go like this and then I go like that, it's actually a little eraser. But I can also choose a color there, so I can have two colors to draw with. So let's say I want to draw something. I'll get like a blue color. I can draw like that, and then I can draw right there like that. And if I want to turn the onion skin off to see what it looks like, I can just click that, or I can hit Alt-O on the keyboard. Okay, so then I can erase this, so I can hit E on the keyboard and erase if I want. And then I can switch the colors by hitting X on the keyboard or clicking this little thing. Okay, so now I'm just gonna draw a little cat avatar. So I'll just, whoops, I have to get my pencil back. So I'm gonna draw like some cat ears, draw around like that. And then I'm gonna use my bucket tool and fill this in. And then I'm gonna draw a couple little eyes like this and a little mouth like that. Okay, that looks pretty bad. I'm gonna use a smaller pen. I'm gonna use like this size pen and draw my eyes. And draw a little mouth. Okay, there's my cat avatar. I'll fill this in here. Whoops. Okay, obviously you can spend more time on yours. I'm just gonna stop there. I'll go over more animation tools in a later lesson, but there are a lot of really good animation tools, like I can add new frames and do stuff. There's also a bunch of tutorials to look at. But for now, I'm just gonna stop here. I'm gonna delete my first frame. So I just have one frame and I'm gonna hit save. A couple really nice tools. There's this thing called Paint All Pixels. So let's say I wanted to change the color of the black part. I could choose like a different color. Let's say I want it to be like green. If I just use the paint bucket, obviously it's gonna put that section in. But if I do Paint All Pixels, then it'll do everything that's color. So it's really easy to do that. That green is insane looking, so I'm gonna get something a little less saturated. And then I'll just do it again. And that's too dark, so let's go lighter. And then I'll do it again. That's kind of better, it's kind of weird, but whatever. There's also this nice palette, so I can switch between my two colors really easily in the palette. Any color that I use will go down there. What else? This dithering tool is cool. If I choose two different colors and paint around like that, it'll kind of like do this dither thing, or I can you know, paint in here or whatever. That's kind of fun. Can paint a bunch of stuff like this. Maybe I'll paint a little outline. Looks kind of weird. But anyway, it just makes like a little checkerboard thing. It's kind of fun. Kind of looks weird. I don't know. And then there's a bunch of other tools, like I can move this guy around. I can select shapes and then move the shape around. And do lots of different stuff. There's also these shapes. Yeah. So those are kind of like some of the basic different tools you can use. And yeah, I just play around with it, create something that you can use for an avatar, and we're gonna upload it to the OpenLab. So I'm gonna get rid of that outline. I'm gonna center this, and then we're gonna go over some of the export options. Any questions on the tools before we go over the export options? Okay, cool. Okay, so this is the important part. We have a bunch of different options for exporting, and it's designed to work with games. So the main option is this PNG, and we just have one frame, so it's just gonna export one frame. But what's going to be really nice is when we use this a little bit later in the semester with Godot is you can export sprite sheets. So you can have lots of images and it exports it as one big image. For now, we're just going to do a PNG, but we're going to look at the scaling. If we scale at 1x, it's going to be 64 by 64. And so if I click download here, it's going to open my file explorer or finder. And so I can go in here and I can just save a avatar PNG image. So I'll save that. So now I'm going to go over to the finder. And here's my avatar, but it's incredibly small. It's not incredibly small, but it's pretty small. So that might look okay in this context down here, but it's going to look very small if we're looking at our own user page. So it's very easy to export this at a larger size. So I can scale it up. Let's scale it up by 4. So it'd be 256 by 256. That's a much bigger image. And now I can download it again. And I'll just put underscore 256 at the end here. So I'll know which is which. So I have my original avatar, which is 64 pixels, and my 256 by 256. So you can see that's much bigger. To preview on the Mac, I'm just hitting the space bar. And you can see the file size, 4KB, that's really, really small. That's one advantage of pixel art. We don't have that much color data in there. So this file size is going to be really small. With games, one of the things that's really important is managing the size of the game. You guys have probably played like 3D games where you have to download like 100 megabytes or 100 gigabytes to play the game. We are not going to do that because our tools are all going to be free open source tools. So they're not really going to let us do stuff like that. And so we have to be careful about how much data are we loading into the game, or else it's going to kind of hurt the performance of the game. Okay. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add this to the OpenLab. So I'm going to keep this here so I know where it is. I'm going to go back to the browser, and I'm going to go up to the OpenLab. I'm going to log in. Okay, let's see if this works if I go to a new page. Okay, so yeah, for some reason, just opening just a new tab, like it doesn't even have to be an incognito window, seems to fix that issue. So I don't know what the deal with that is, but here we are. Okay, so I want to do two things. I want to make this my avatar. So that happens in a different part of the OpenLab. So this is a good point to kind of review how the OpenLab works. But I also want to make a post. So let's do the avatar first. So if I go to my profile in OpenLab, you're going to see this is my current avatar. And so if I click on this image, change avatar, I can upload my image. So I'll go to my desktop and I'll find this image that I exported and I'll click open. And then I can upload image and then it's going to ask me to crop. And you can crop it all the way or do however you want. And click crop image. And there we go. So now when we go back to the page, we're going to see that image. So this part of the OpenLab where you see like, you know, the white background and this gray bar here, this is where like the members are. This is where you can create different projects and courses and stuff like that. But most OpenLab projects have a site that's associated with them. And so you're going to have a portfolio site. And one of the nice things about the OpenLab is all the stuff that you make in this class, if you want to put it on your personal portfolio, you can just copy the posts that you make for class over to your own OpenLab portfolio. So we're not going to do that right now. We'll look at that later in the semester. But just for example, like if you go to my portfolio site, I just have this set up as an example, but you can see I have, you know, links to my different courses. This is from last year. And then some links here. You can create your own website that is, you know, not related to the class, but you can repost stuff that you make for the class on your own portfolio. So that makes it a little bit easier to start to add some of your class projects to a portfolio website. So that's one of the nice things about the OpenLab. This doesn't happen on our class site. This happens on the regular OpenLab. So when you go to my profile, you know, you'll see my courses. So you can see all of my courses here. These are courses obviously that I teach, but you'll be a member of this course and other courses. And then you know, there's other stuff on here. for our class, when you go to our class, most of what we're going to be working on is on the course site. So if you go to visit course site, it takes you to the site that we've all seen. If you go to where it says site dashboard, it takes you to the dashboard. And this is where you can make posts and submit your work. So to make a new post, and we're all just going to post our avatar for today, you just click on that plus button. And this is what the WordPress interface looks like. If you've used WordPress before, you'll be familiar with this. If you haven't, that's fine. We're going to talk about it now. If you've never used it before, it may look weird. You may see these things are open. Just close them. Just click on these arrows and close them. You may not see this menu on the side here. Just click on this menu button here. You may see like a little window that says like, do you want a tutorial? You can look at the tutorial or you can just close it, either way. But we're going to compose our first post. So we're going to call this my avatar. And then you can choose a category. So you can see there's an avatar category right there if you want to. That'll make it more organized if you choose that category. And then you're just going to add your image here. So there's a couple different ways to add the image. You can drag and drop. So if I open the Finder and I kind of move it over here so I can see them, I drag the image. Whoops. I don't know why the window moved. Let's try that again. Drag the image over here. If you see that little blue box, that means it's going to work. You can upload the image like that. If you want to use the interface, you can click on the block button here and then click on the image. If you don't see image there, type in image. These are all the different types of things that you can put on your blog post. So I'm going to put image, go to upload, and then just find the image on your computer. If it's right there, that's great. If not, go to your desktop and find it, and then add the avatar. And then I didn't really think that much about my avatar. I just kind of made it. If it blows it up like this happens sometimes. You can go over to the block, and if you want to just click on the resolution. It won't let me choose thumbnail. That's weird. Okay, I want full size, but I want it to be the original. Wide? I don't know why it is like doing this weird. It's kind of like blowing up the size, which I don't want. But I can't figure out how to fix that right now, so I'll do it later. Oh, I can put a little frame around it. That's kind of nice. I don't want to do that. Okay. Anyway, I'll look at more settings later, but for now, it doesn't look exactly like what I want, but that's okay. Anyway, just put a couple sentences here about what went into your design process for the avatar. So you can say, this is my avatar. I made a cat design because I like cats. It doesn't have to be super deep, just something that tells us a little bit about why you made that design. We just want to get in the habit of posting our work and explaining what we're looking at. And think about it not from my perspective or your perspective, but from the perspective of someone who is never taken this class before, doesn't go to BMCC. How would you explain like what they're looking at so that they understand it? And we'll talk more about documentation as we submit other stuff throughout the class. So once you've done all that, you can publish. You can actually preview if you want to make sure it looks good. Click the preview button. And you'll see it looks okay, although I don't want it to be this big, but I'll figure that out later. And then just click publish. You have to do it twice because they want to make sure. And then this is the last part when you're done to turn in your homework. You're going to copy this link, and that's what you submit on OpenLab or on Brightspace. You don't have to submit any files or anything else on Brightspace, just the link to your post. You can click View Post if you want to see it. It's going to come up in our posts feed, so you'll see your avatar in our post feed. And then you can go to Brightspace. You can go to the assignments. Let me go to Learner View real quick. Okay, you can go to the assignments. You can find blog assignment 1. And if you want to review the rubric, you'll see this is what you have to do. Write a blog post. That's 10 points. make an avatar, that's 10 points. Write 1 or 2 sentences, that's 10 points. And then link to the post, that's 5 points. Pretty straightforward. This is a text submission, so you literally just paste that link in there. So I just hit Command V. However you copy and paste, just paste it in there, and then click submit. And that's all you have to do. And then I'll grade it. If you miss anything, I'll say what you missed, and you can resubmit it if you want, but that's basically everything. You don't have to use Piskel. If you want to use a different app, that's fine. Just make sure that the image is like an appropriate size. If your image is like 20 megabytes, that's too big. If it's like somewhere between 1 and 300 kilobytes, that's fine, but 300 is high. It should really be like between 1 and 100 or maybe 50 kilobytes. Yeah.
Yeah, I have the image on 32 by 32. Is that fine?
That's fine. It may look kind of small, but you know, as we talked about, you can scale it up when you export it. Other questions? Okay, cool. So I'm gonna stop here. I'm recording this. I'll put this video on YouTube and I'll link to it. So if you guys want to review it, you can. But you should be able to follow those steps. We have like another hour and 10 minutes in class, so that should hopefully be enough to do all that stuff. And you know, let me know if you need help with any part of that process. I'll be around and I can help out.